Alright, so that's the record button, that's the stop button, that's the pause button, and then to unstop the record, to unpause the recording, to press the pause button. Okay, so we've got ourselves a slight situation. I've got my buddy Linear Philosophy Cosplays over at the shop today. Say hello to the camera.
What's up?
So you've seen it on our Instagram before how we made those duct tape dummies of our bodies. He was the big one, this big one. Now the problem is that while we were trying to make a costume, we were having trouble trying to juggle between holding the costume pattern and the dummy itself, as this is rather kind of awkward.
And figuring out what we need to do.
Yes. I mean, there is always having the actual costumer put this on his body, but he won't be able to have a good sense of what exactly is he trying to do. So
I never have an idea what I want to do.
So basically the idea was, why don't we stick this on top of a stand so that we can actually have it standing instead of having to hold it every single time, because now both my hands are preoccupied in trying to move pattern around and trying to hold it in place. It gets to be a little bit awkward. So this is the plan. We went out to Home Depot and we picked up a bunch of 2x3s just because they're cheaper. We're going to need a bunch of screws, and we're going to have to use a little bit of power tooling. We're also going to be grabbing whatever scraps of square pieces of wood. Alright, so this guy, it came in 8-foot pieces, but it wouldn't fit inside of Linear Philosophy's car, so we chopped it down to 6, and we needed a 2-foot across just for the shoulders alone. But this, for me, it's going to be a little bit too tall, so I just need to figure out how tall I am.
5'8".
5'8"? Alrighty.
I'm usually right about these things.
5'8", 68. Alrighty, so that one's mine. Yours is...
I'm 5'10".
5'10", okay. So 2 inches off 6. Wait a second. That is under 6 feet. I will do this the less lazy way.
The additive way rather than the subtractive way?
Yes. 5'10". There we go.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Okay, that was confusing. Nope, I was just doing bad math. My mistake.
Report engineer for bad at math.
Look at. So these cutoffs were initially meant for doing the cross arms, so basically across the shoulder for when we do it. So we will leave those alone because I like those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to create all the struts out of this guy. Now I know this is only 6 feet long, which is fine. If we need 4 struts, then we just at 1 foot intervals. It's not a problem. We still have one more cut-off piece, and then we'll just cut this in half, and therefore we've got 8. All right.
You will note.
Ears. Where are my ears? There's my ears. Gotta keep my eyes and ears. So safety first, guys. Alright, so this is the really weird thing about this machine, is that this is actually called a miter saw. Very specifically, why? It's because it's got this thing called a miter. Now what that thing allows me to do is I just rotate that, and I need a 45-degree angle like so. Solely because when we are cutting out the struts, they are not actually going to be square, they're actually going to be triangles.
Ah, diagonal cut.
So much like how you have all your bridge builders making all their bridges out of triangles, exact same idea.
You had dogs on your mind, didn't you? You had dogs on your mind, didn't you?
I don't know what you're talking about. That's not a horrible issue, honestly. I mean, that just means that when I drill it in one way, I can stagger it on the other side and just drill it. As long as that actually creates a proper right angle, we should be fine.
And this is how one recovers from mistakes.
Well, I mean, it's not that difficult. I mean, I could chop down the longer than 1 foot to perfectly 1 foot, but for the sake of time, it's not as important.
Time is money.
Just make sure that I'm actually cutting the right one. Okay, this is the right one. Okay, we're good.
You sure about that?
Yes, I see marks there.
Just checking.
Alright, I know this might be a little bit excessive on this one, but what I kind of want to do is, when we do have these pieces standing straight up in the air, I want to be able to take cross beam and I kind of want to be able to slot it in there perfectly tight so that it just stays in there.
Ah, so you're creating that slot with the milling machine.
Yes, exactly. Biggest issue, of course, is the fact that, well, I gotta have this pretty tight. So I'm just gonna have to do this bit by bit until I get...
You telling me you don't like it tight?
I want it tight. I want it really tight. But it takes a lot of skill and patience to get it to the perfect amount of tightness where it's very comfortable to stick it in without it, like, not sticking in at all. And if it's too loose, then it just falls right out.
Just flops around, eh?
Yep, just flops around. Wait a second.
Well, worst comes to worst, you could always add a little bit of lube.
This is supposed to be a family-friendly channel.
Hey, everyone knows what lubricant does. It makes things slide in and out easier.
Hopefully, that should be just
Just ram it in there, right?
just a touch more. Just a touch more. Ah, there we go.
Perfect fit.
It's a little bit on the loose side, but that's not too...
Well, worst comes to worst, you could always fill it in, right?
Yeah, not nearly as bad.
Or if you want, you could probably even tape it down, or wood glue it down, or...
Ideally, you typically put a screw right there.
All right.
In the ones that I've built for another company before, they've had me basically do this exact same cut on this piece of wood as well, so that it would be properly flush.
Hmm.
I'm thinking that might be for later on expansion, later on addition, but for now, just for our purposes of being able to hold that duct tape busk, I think it should be fine.
Okay.
But I think it would be better if we. It would be better overall if we did do the second half of it, but that can wait for another time.
Okay.
We are on a slight little bit of a time crunch as it is right now, as we have an hour and a half before everything gets closed down in the shop today.
Anime North is just around the corner.
Yep. Now I need to get your shoulder height, because that top line is actually matched to my shoulder height.
Okay, well...
Alrighty. So we're out here in the middle of the sidewalk, mostly because this is the most level we'll ever get around here.
Joel is not Rick.
No, I do not have the capability of creating true level. And even if I did, I don't think I'd have the amount of time and money to invest into actually making that garage into true level. So basically, got one there, it's going to be on the back there, and then these two smaller ones are going to be off to the side like that.
And they're not going to be falling apart.
And hopefully, when all is said and done, it should not be falling apart. But of course, the biggest challenge is trying to do a three-hand job with only two. Stefan, I need you in here.
Okay, here I am.
Hold, yeah, there we go. Try to keep that straight, up and down. Alright, so biggest issue is that why you have to pre-drill holes into lumber when you're putting screws in is because these screws have a bad tendency to cause wood like this to split in half if you cut across like that.
We don't want that.
You do not want that. You lose a lot of structural integrity if you do that. Of course, there's always the problem of trying to open up this thing in the first place. There we go. So hopefully, when I put the screw through this hole here, it doesn't break anything in half. Alright, that's one leg. Now I'll do 3, 4, 7 more. Rotate. Alright, so after we took quite a few minutes to screw the base on to get to this thing, I had to put holes through the base while this thing was on top, screw the center one, and then I screwed each individual one down so that hopefully someone decides to kick it, it ain't going nowhere. So, moment of truth right now. The whole point of this is to take this beam right off so that we can take his dummy self, stick him in and through the stuffing, which foam and wood do not mate well, but at least it's not
Causing a mess?
well, no, that's just me causing the mess with your body.
I like it when you make a mess with my body. Oh look, I've been impaled. My head's swung up. My head's been thrown off.
All right, and then
That part's gonna be tricky. I'm warning you.
maybe.
There's a lot of stuff in between the two shoulder points. I'll have you know.
Nothing a little knifing work can't fix, but I mean, all I need to do is get it underneath the shoulder here, across the front, or actually not. Let's rotate this so it's going around the back. And then out the other shoulder. Like so. And then all I need to do is just find where that notch is. Oh, I feel it. And then press in.
Cue Final Fantasy VII music.
Or Zelda. Take your pick. So, there we go. Now we have a one-to-one for the user's height mannequin of himself made out of duct tape, a couch that I found on the street, and a bunch of 2x3s instead of 2x4s. I mean, you can choose 2x4s and it would make it a little bit less wobbly across there, but I mean, for the same for less cost, and it's not nearly as it's this exact same level of difficulty in either process, except those struts would be a little bit more weird to try to get the length of. But either way, I hope this video was good for you, and hopefully see you in the next build.